All right, let's talk about ratios in the pipeline. If you haven't watched the pipeline video, you should before you watch this video, because ratios have a lot to do with what's going on in your pipeline. Remember, the pipeline talks about anyone in your market and how you move them through your sales process. The pipeline is going to be a tiered system of judging how far along in the process given companies are. So you're going to have to define each of these tiers, and then as you talk to folks, you're going to move them through the pipeline. And remember, we define these as you've had a first conversation, you've done a demo, you've talked to the key folks in the account, they've given you a verbal, they want to work with you, and then they signed a contract. So that's sort of a little refresher. The ratios are the numbers that flow out of that process. So if we look over here, the ratios are essentially looking at a comparison of a number either from one step to another. Did I go from qualified to defined? Did I go from pre-qualified to qualified? Or they can look at from any given step to closure. That's just one of many. You can have ratios that look at any part of the process, but those are the two most common. And here's what those are called. This is the number of opportunities at level 1 divided by the number of opportunities at level 2. So this would be 2,000 divided by 100, or 5%. That's called an advancement ratio, because what that's measuring is, did I advance the company, and if you haven't watched the advancement video, watch that one as well. Did I advance the company from one step to another in my pipeline? So there could be an advancement ratio here, there could be an advancement ratio here, there could be an advancement ratio here. There's also another sort of ratio, which is number of opportunities at any given level to the number that closed, and that's the close ratio. I'm sorry, that's actually the other way around, but it's closed over the number of opportunities. You're looking basically at how, if I have 100 and I close 4, what ratio does that give me? If I have 25 and I close 4, what ratio does that give me? So those different ratios are going to help you diagnose things inside of your company. Diagnose problems. So what I've done here is I've picked 4 ratios for us to look at, and we'll talk about what these ratios are. And these are all advancement ratios. So the first ratio here is, how many people did I move from pre-qualified to qualified? And I just randomly named this one my prospecting ratio. That tells me how good I am at prospecting from month to month. Number 2 is, how many times did I move from an initial meeting and demo to a very long series of meetings and demos where I met all of the key decision makers. That one I'm calling my key man ratio, meaning I got to talk to the right people. The third one is I moved from those talks to them giving me a verbal confirmation. I'm going to call that my close ratio because they told me they want to work with me. But then some of those deals, after they tell me they want to work with me, when we talk about finances and we look at a contract, some of those deals fall apart. So I'm going to call that my contracting ratio. And each of those ratios will tell me whether I'm good or bad and how that's trending over time. So these ratios are key indicators. They're a diagnostic tool. They allow me to do reporting, and trending becomes super important. So in this case, let's look at some of these ratios. My prospecting ratio of 2,000, I managed to reach 100, 5%. That's pretty good. In a given month, that means I made a lot of outgoing phone calls and got a lot of responses. So the key man ratio, I went from having meetings, about 100 meetings, to really having 40 that invited me back. At 40%, that's awesome. I got to know the key decision makers. I got in those offices. I did presentations. I'm really good at that. And then from developed to selected, I went from 25 that were developed to 5 maybe that were selected. That's not so good. I'm not closing those deals that I've spent a lot of time with. And then the contract ratio, I went from 5 closed to 4 that contracted, so I lost 1 during the contracting process. Maybe that's not great either, but you can sort of decide for your business. But you get the idea. Ratios are used as a diagnostic tool to measure either advancement or how you relate to your closure rate. That's the key thing, and they're used as indicators, diagnostic tools, reporting tools, and as a trending mechanism. So get to know your ratios.